Alright, we have our edges cut smooth. They line up at a 90-degree angle, both of them, on both sides. This is going to be our corner piece. So what we need to do now is attach the top piece to the bottom piece. So we're going to take our tacky glue and we're just going to run a few lines. Doesn't have to be neat, and we're not going to spread it out. We're going to do that as we actually attach the top piece to the bottom piece. And you notice that I don't cover the entire area. I want to be able to have some air inside here to dry the glue from both sides. If I was to cover the entire piece, there would be no air inside for it to dry. It would take a lot longer to dry, so that's why we do it like this. Take a couple of small toothpicks, and I'm going to get a little bit of glue on each one, making sure that the toothpicks are straight up. You only need about 3 just for some added stability. Alright, I think that should be fine. I'm going to line it up from the back with the 2 straight edge pieces and just press it down. Making sure that you keep these edges flush. Okay, so now that that is done, we need something heavy to put on top. So what I've taken is just this flat board. You don't want anything that's going to, well, you want something that's going to distribute the weight evenly. So you wouldn't want anything to just sit on this part or just sit on this edge. So you want something that will cover this entire piece. And I have this color place primer, something that's just heavy enough not to crush the foam, but to keep it in place as the glue dries. So we're going to let this sit for about an hour, should be fine. It'll take a little bit longer than that for it to dry completely, but for now that's okay. Make sure that our edges still line up, and we're good for now. So while our heel pieces are drying, this is a good time to go ahead and seal the edges of the board. Okay, so I have a demo piece out here that would look just like it would if you were making your own table. I don't have the big 2 foot by 2 foot piece out here just because I don't have enough room to get everything in frame that I need to. So this will look exactly the same way as it does on the big table. The foam and the board underneath, and it's cut off at a flush edge. So I've taken my liquid nails and I'm just going to run a small bead and use my finger to wipe off the excess and spread it around. You don't have to use your finger. You can use a putty knife, an old towel, rag, doesn't really matter as long as it gets spread evenly. Some people may ask why use liquid nails instead of say some kind of plaster or drywall putty. That can still chip and crack with the more pressure that you apply to it. Once this hardens, it's just like wood, so you're not going to be able to crack this or chip it once it's done. And once it's completely dry, it is sandable, so you can get a really nice smooth finish once it has completely set. Again, if you're not comfortable using your finger, just use something that you are comfortable with to spread it. So we're accomplishing two things here. We're making sure that we have a rough edge or a hard edge that won't chip or crack with a lot of use, and we're also going to hide the seam between the foam and the wood on the bottom. May have a little bit of dead air for just a minute while I get this spread out. Don't worry about any of the wavy lines that you see if it's not completely smooth. That's fine. We're going to go back with sandpaper and make sure that it is smooth once it's done. Alright. Have it liberally covered now. I'm going to wipe off the excess if there was any spillover to the bottom. And I'm sure you've seen tables that have been made with foam on the top. They have little chips out of the top, butting up against the edge of the table. Having models hit the table, you get little divots or indentions made in the piece. We definitely do not want that. We want to make sure that our table lasts a long time and is really sturdy along the edge. So what I'm going to do now is just take a little bit of the liquid nails and I'm going to go along the top edge. Again, I'm only doing this on the outside. I'm not going to do it on the insides because I want to still make sure that my table edges line up correctly here. If I have a little bit on the outside lip showing, that that's not a problem at all because this edge isn't lining up with anything. So I'm not going to do that on the inside. Only going to do it on the outside edges of the pieces. Doesn't have to be real thick, just enough to make sure that we're not going to get banged up corners if we accidentally run into the table or drop something on the edge of the table. So we have one edge completed now. We need to do the edges on the other boards. Once this is dry, after about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that, we're going to come back with our sandpaper, sand this down smooth, sand the side down smooth, and the edge and the top will be ready for primer and or sealer. And we'll cover that as we go along. And then once this is done on all the other panels, we'll be ready to go ahead and start putting down our substrate to make the ground, and I think that's about it for this one.